Father, what are your thoughts of the topic of controversy in religion and suicide?
Well, in the Catholic Church, the Church has always taught that suicide is something we should not do, because life is a gift from God. Right. And by committing suicide, you are rejecting, in effect, God's gift for you.
Right.
But the Church, before, thought that there would be really no nuance to the question. You know, it was just a fact. If you commit suicide, then you would end up in hell. But the Church teaching has evolved over time, as many other Church teachings have evolved over time. The teaching about suicide has. And while the Church would still teach that suicide is wrong, it's something that we would not want anybody to do, that God's mercy is the prevailing force. God's mercy is there even if a person were to commit suicide, because we don't know, for one thing, whether the person would have changed their mind at the last minute, if they were impaired by alcohol or drugs or by mental illness, then that would show that they weren't doing that act with full consent and with full knowledge. And so if in any way they were doing this in a way that wasn't their full will to do it, then the Church would say, well, of course God's mercy will prevail in a situation like that. The Church doesn't want people to commit suicide for good reason. I mean, life is a gift from God, and if you start letting people destroy or not appreciate life in one area, then that can spread to other areas as well. That's part of what the Church would call a seamless garment approach to life. We respect life in all aspects. So the Church would say, if somebody is contemplating suicide, the best thing they should do, instead of going ahead with it, would be to talk to somebody, come to somebody for help, including people in the Church. People have come to me who have been contemplating suicide, and thankfully none of them have actually gone through with it. I think sometimes they just need somebody to talk to who will understand them and who will support them.
I totally agree with you, Father. That's all, that's the biggest part, in religion and suicide. People are, there's a lot of people that have a mental illness, and don't have, is atheists, and don't really believe in that. Mm-hmm. What would you say to them?
Well, if you're taking the position that they don't believe in God at all, why should they not commit suicide?
Right.
I think it would be a question of, what does that do to the social fabric? And the social fabric would be that we want people to support each other and to support life in general.
Right.
If you start pulling at that social fabric, it can unravel in many ways. Some people are pushing very hard for what they call physician-assisted suicide, where if somebody says, I don't want to live anymore, I'm too sick, I've had cancer for so long, doctor, just give me a pill, put me out of my agony, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Now, the Church teaches that you do not have to artificially keep somebody alive, but at the same time, you cannot artificially encourage their death. So in other words, if somebody had cancer, if they've been suffering a long time, the Church wouldn't say, we're going to make you take these experimental drugs so that you live a few extra weeks or a few extra days. That would be artificially prolonging their life. But at the same time, the Church would not say, well, we'll just let the doctor give you an injection or a pill or something like that will kill you, within the next few minutes to put you out of your agony. The Church would not support that. I don't know what an atheist might again say, well, it's up to me, it's my decision. But society is not just a question of everybody making their own decision in a granular manner, right, and figuring out that, well, everything will work out if everybody makes what's best for him or her. It's also a question of legislating and conversing and educating and putting all of our best minds together to say, what are the best policies for society? It's not just every woman or every man for him or herself. It's a question of what laws and what morals in a society are going to be best for the common good in the long run. And that's where the church comes in too. The church has been around for 2,000 years. And so to be around for 2,000 years, you should have accumulated some wisdom in terms of what's good for society and what isn't.
Okay. Thank you, Father, for
You're very welcome.
having me interview you today. Oh my God, came out knowing a little bit more than I did, you know?
Okay. I'm very happy then. I'm very happy that you chose this topic and that you chose to ask me about it.
Yep. And stop record, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hello,
Hi.
Mr. Gladden. I'm doing a paper about religion and controversy. What are your thoughts and beliefs about religion and suicide?
Well, Mariah, first of all, at one point I had suicidal tendencies at a very early age in my life. It played a big part because there was no religion at that time. As a matter of fact, I was away from the church for about 10 years. Things got dark. There were problems. I was on medication for depression. And the best thing, I thought my only option out was suicide. And it had got so great to where my brother, in his family, there was a fire. And the priest invited him and his family to live with them in the rectory. Well, he invited me to church one Sunday. And I went to church with him. And it just opened my life up and took all suicidal tendencies from me. And that's when I realized that there was a religion lacking in my life, that I had suicidal tendencies. So I feel religion is a big part. I believe if there is religion in your life, chances are there probably wouldn't be any suicidal tendencies.
So what if you say if a person's like really religious and has suicidal tendencies and don't see nowhere else, what would your advice be for them?
Well, there are, first of all, there's counselors. He could also speak with religious people. He could pray more. And he can ask the Lord. He would be surprised. The Lord can work wonders in his life. He's done it for me. I'm sure he can do it for that person too.
Thank you, Mr. Gladden.
You're welcome.